We got people dying out there. We got people dying out here. Homeless veterans dying. For what? What did we do so bad to you guys? We went to war, Vietnam, and fought. I lost good friends over there, man. And I should be dead. But thank God I'm not. God has a plan for me. I don't know what it is, but he has a purpose. My heart goes out to each one of these guys out here. It's not easy. I help my mom, my son. You mean I give them money every month? Why? Because they took care of me when I was sick. They took care of me when I needed help. America, we hope you can help us, please. We need help out here. Drive by and talk to us one time. Let it get to know one of us. You'll change your mind. You will change your mind.
My name's Rob Reynolds. I'm a U.S. Army veteran. I served in Iraq in 2007. I was in the Army from 2006 to 2010. I'm a member of AMVETS, it's a veteran service organization, Post 2 here in Los Angeles. So a bunch of us have actually got together from my post, and we've been helping keep veterans off the street and at least in a tent so that they're not sleeping all over the sidewalk. This property here is a donated soldiers' home. Up until the 1970s, you had upwards of close to 5,000 veterans living on the property, and then the VA got really big into commercially leasing out the land for profit, and a lot of privatization went into effect, and unfortunately there's only 54 units of permanent housing today. You have 388 acres, and a lot of these buildings are empty or being utilized for non-veteran special interest groups. There's wealthy developers, special interest groups that all see this land and they want to utilize it for things like schools or public parks or dog parks and never build veteran housing. So that's something we're trying to fight through right now, is to get this land back to the way it was supposed to be. It was donated in 1887 to be a home for disabled veterans forever. And used to do that for nearly 80 years. And it's got away from that. And the VA was supposed to have delivered around 480 units of housing in 2020. Unfortunately, that did not happen. And when the pandemic hit, we had that shortage of housing, and then they took all the programs on the property and reduced them down to a 50% occupancy. And at that time, that's what caused the population out on the sidewalk to really start to grow. And that's something we're constantly dealing with. Every time there's a COVID outbreak in any one of the programs, that's when you'll see they stop admissions, and then you see the population start to grow. About 95% of them out there are all enrolled and either waiting for like HUD-VASH vouchers or different services through the VA. Just these things take time. They don't happen overnight. And it's unfortunate that they're staying out in the street. They should be able to wait on the property while they're going through this process of getting registered and waiting for different housing opportunities, but unfortunately that's not the case today. So we're trying to do our best to make sure that they at least have some reasonable accommodations like a tent and a cot, somewhere to go to the bathroom, bring in food and everything for them. It's been a long road. We've been at this, I want to say about 15 months now since these large tents went into place. Currently today there's 50 veterans out on the sidewalk. 16 of them are combat veterans. We have a lot of Afghanistan that show up, Iraq, Gulf War, we have some Vietnam out there right now. It's really important that this gets changed because you see what's happening in Afghanistan right now. You just had a lot of service members get killed and more get injured. And if they were to come home today and come here to get services, they're going to end up out in the street. And so this can't happen, and we're really trying to change that before these new veterans start coming out and getting out of the military so they don't have to go through this and risk dying out on the sidewalk. Right now, our country's bringing a lot of the refugees over that helped assist U.S. service members during the 20-year war. And, if we can cut through the red tape to get all the refugees housed, there's no reason we can't cut through the red tape and get all these veterans housed and off the street. Because anyone that raised their right hand should not be in this position. And people pay taxes every year to have these guys housed and taken care of. They have benefits, and they're entitled to housing. And they're entitled to housing here on this land. And that's really what this whole fight is about, is getting the veterans back on the land and getting the VA to stop leasing out portions of this property. Because when you have the VA involved in their real estate business, they're not involved in the business of taking care of veterans. You can't have both. We network with a lot of different groups. So we network with Veterans Peer Access Network. That's like a county program. It's comprised of a bunch of different agencies like the Department of Mental Health, Goodwill. So they'll come out every Thursday morning to do outreach. Also SSVF, which is Supportive Services for Veterans Families. We work with the VA Peer Support. And what's been eye-opening about this situation is veterans have a lot more benefits and things than the rest of the unhoused population that are civilians. And even with all the resources that they have, it's still a really long process. So I can only imagine what people are going through that aren't veterans. And the other problem we run into here at the VA is a lot of these programs, they kind of have a habit of recycling veterans. And what I mean by that is they have really stringent rules. They're very archaic, in my opinion. When you have someone that's coming off the street, homelessness, or they have PTSD, kicking them out for missing a bed check, it's a little much. And that's unfortunately what's happening today. And COVID has played a lot into this. Ever since COVID happened, there's been a lot more kind of like isolation or lockdown or social distancing guidelines, and it really affects the veterans in a negative manner.
The military, they train you to be a killer. When I'm in the military, and when I joined, it was boot camp, kill, kill, kill. And when you get out of the military, they just throw you out. But when you have kids or something, and they run by you, you get that quick switch because you're still in that killer mode. So I think we need to incorporate a way to, it's gonna sound funny, but how do you train veterans to be civilians again?
War is here. Now with these young kids coming back, they need places like this for them to come back to, kind of get them back into society.
As soon as you leave the military, go through the program, and each veteran is different, 1 month, 2 months, and each healing is different. So each method is completely different. But that program gives you a time to decompress, to go away and just let it out instead of just going from war to family and your kids wanting you and your friends want you and your mom wants you. And you have to get a job and you have to do it. It's a lot, especially a lot of veterans, they see combat or they don't, or they might have their own trauma from the military, which is a lot. So I think we need to incorporate it once they leave the military, decompress however that soldier needs, and then back to civilian.
When they dropped me off in public, when I came back from Vietnam, first thing I didn't have my weapon. I was actually scared. I didn't have my weapon. But my wife said, get a job. That got me kind of like back into society.
They're supposed to have programs and they're supposed to have opportunities conflict-free that they can easily get into. And unfortunately, that's not what they have here today. In 2011, there was a lawsuit. Vietnam Veterans of America sued the VA for misuse of land, and also in that lawsuit, the ACLU contends that the VA benefit program here discriminates against veterans with severe mental health disabilities and also with PTSD because they can't adequately access the care and treatment they deserve or they're entitled to, and that's still happening today. It's hard to get these guys connected in and get them in just because of all the red tape and hoops they have to jump through. And a lot of times when they show up here, they don't have any identification, they don't have any of their paperwork. So it takes a long time for us to get all that stuff together and get them inside. So it's not like these people just want to be outside and they're criminals and vagrants. It's just not the case. It's a long process to get them in. And I know myself and everyone else that's involved in this, we wish that they could be waiting on the other side of the fence here on the property instead of out in the street, because they should not be out there. And generalizations are bad. I hear a lot of times people generalize, they're all drug addicts, they're all criminals, they're all vagrants. And when you do that, you miss a lot of people in between, because there's a lot of people out here veterans out here that don't use drugs, that have never used drugs, that are literally just trying to get help and don't know how to access everything. And so we're trying to work with them, and it's definitely a really difficult road. The reason why we put the flags on the tents is because people were saying that they were not veterans. So that's why we put flags in each tents, to show that each person in a tent with a flag on it is a U.S. military veteran. And since I've been involved in this, there's been hundreds of veterans that have showed up here for help. And that's part of what really keeps me going with the whole situation, because I am constantly watching people. Every week we get someone into housing, permanent housing, or into a program, and we have guys that'll come back after they got housed to come out and help. So it's definitely working what we're doing, and it's just been connecting with everybody and getting all the different veteran groups together and getting them all on the same page with, hey, let's try to get these guys housed. Where this really needs to go in the future is everything that we're doing out here on the sidewalk needs to be brought inside the VA so that these guys aren't out on the street. That's the ultimate thing, and what's in the way of that right now is the politics behind this property. What it really all boils down to is just greed. You have everyone that thinks, that's in the community that thinks they can do whatever they want on this land, and the veterans are the ones that suffer in the meantime, and even the rest of the people in the community, because if everything was operating correctly in here, you wouldn't have people out on the sidewalk. And until some things get fixed in here, you're going to continue to have this problem. For instance, there's no like immediate same-day sheltering. If someone were to show up today, there's nowhere that they're going to go and get shelter today. They're going to end up out on the sidewalk. And if you're not enrolled in any type of program here on the property, the VA police will tell you to leave. So that's the position we're in, and we're really trying to advocate to get the VA to get some type of, one of these buildings, just get it set up where it's like immediate shelter. They show up, they're a vet, you give them a bed and a place to stay, so that way they're not forced out into the street. And also additionally, stop throwing these people out and putting them back into homelessness, because we see it all the time where you get people into programs or different transitional housing, and then they're right back out on the street a couple weeks later. With everything going on with homelessness in Los Angeles, something's got to be done different, because we can't just keep throwing people back out to the street. No one knows better what a veteran needs other than a veteran. So these guys have been through a lot of the same things together, and they can relate to one another. And that's what Soldiers Home Properties were meant to be, is a place these guys can come to and heal and have their veteran community and be able to relate with one another. And then I think that it's really important that they have their community. And we've actually been working with some different housing units to get some of these guys moved in as groups together, so that way they're not going places by themselves. Because we've actually seen in the past, we had like a year ago where we got someone into permanent housing by themselves, kind of far away, and they ended up committing suicide, and it was really hard for everyone. So I think that their community and everything is very important, and it's important to be around other veterans because that's who they relate with. And I also think that everything that people coming right now, different community, and getting involved and seeing what's going on is very important as well. I'm hopeful that over these next few months that we're really going to start getting a lot more people into permanent housing. In the last 2 weeks, we had 4 guys move into permanent housing from the sidewalk, which is, it's really good. It's been a long road, but there's a lot of positive things that are happening right now, and we're just trying to keep the momentum going and get as many veterans inside as we can.
My heart goes out to each and one of these veterans right here, because I know they struggle. I just wish and pray and hope to God that you guys can see our side of it and help us out here. Because I'll tell you right now, no human being should ever have to live like this. No human being. And what we want, it's just American people say, you know what, you're home. Join us. One day, come out here one day, see what it's like. And I'll bet you'll change your mind.